The biggest problem in cybersecurity is between the chair and the computer. People. This is a statement that we frequently hear in the field of cybersecurity, but I dare to doubt. I'm a psychologist and I studied economic psychology and I obtained a PhD in social psychology. And after that, I studied people for over 10 years at Dutch Governmental Research Institute, TNO. And so I studied people for over 20 years and always related to the field of behavior in security. In the last 10 years, I switched to the field and I now work at Bureau Veritas Cybersecurity, where I'm the principal psychologist, cybersecurity and compliance. And it may sound strange that I, as a psychologist, am talking to you about cybersecurity, but actually, as John just mentioned, it is an expertise on its own. Because when we look at cybersecurity in organizations, we see that nowadays most organizations have appointed a chief information security officer or information security officer. And this is very important because we nowadays see that an organization, there's no one-size-fits-all solution for an organization because the level of defense for a bank, for example, differs a lot from that of level of defense for a lunchroom, so to say. So we need experts who can tell us which policies, procedures, and so on are applicable to a given organization. And those people can also tell us which behavior should accompany those rules and policies. But here's the thing, once we know which behaviors are required from people, we see that there's this tendency to start telling people how to behave. So we see that people got instructed, informed by e-learnings or nice posters or trainings, but it's all like conveying the rules to the people. And when people don't stick to the rule, the conclusion has been drawn that people are the weakest link in cybersecurity. However, knowing what you want to see from people is not the same as being able to influence them, since that is the expertise of psychologists. Because we have studied how to make people wear their badges, lock their computers, and so on. And psychology is the science of behavior, and that may seem easy because we can all understand very much of psychology, but it is an expertise. People are complex and unpredictable. And what we see is this human tendency to think that we are human experts ourselves because we are human ourselves and we have some humans at home. So we think we know what other people need. However, in practice, it's much more complicated. It should be very strange if you ask me as a psychologist to build a firewall, right? So why does it make sense that we ask people with other expertise to make sure that all people in a company behave safely? That is why I am very proud that we at Bureau Veritas chose to combine the expertise. So what we did, we worked together with people who are experts on the process, on the technology, and on the people side. And from the process people, we can learn about the policies and the rules. From the technology people, we can learn what's technically possible. But what I want to zoom in today at is what we as psychologists can teach to the field of cybersecurity and to the other disciplines. So cybersecurity can learn a lot from psychology. And one of the most important lessons, I think, is that people are not rational. What we see is, as I just told, when we want to change people's behavior, in this field, we see that people, that ISO or CISOs, put all efforts into conveying the message to the people. in very fancy ways. We make very nice posters, or we do a very fancy gamified e-learning or so, but it's all based on sending the knowledge to the other person, relying on the fact that once they know the rule, they will behave accordingly. And once they don't, we conclude that people are the weakest link. But about knowing the rules and behavior, let's have a look at daily life. We all know that we should not call in the car, but does it also mean we never do it? Or even clear signs stating very clearly what's expected from us still don't mean that we actually behave accordingly. In other words, knowledge and awareness do not guarantee the desired behavior. They are absolutely necessary, but they are not sufficient to guarantee the behavior. So when we look at human behavior in cybersecurity, we might assume that the same holds for this behavior, because when we see it at all behaviors in daily life, that people don't always stick to the rule. Why would they in cybersecurity? However, I am a scientist, as I just told, so I strongly believe that you should test the things before you state them clearly. So that's what I did. I conducted research. Always when we start a new assignment for a customer, I start with a baseline measurement. Customer is an organization in my case. So I think it's very important to start with a baseline measurement, because you have to know where people are standing, what their level of knowledge is, which topics need attention before you can think about any program that you're gonna run with those people. So I combined the results of many of our baseline measurements, and it consists of various parts, but for now I will focus on the online survey questionnaire. And this is a sample of 1,155 respondents among 20 organizations in healthcare. And what we do in this online questionnaire is, first we assess for 15 different cybersecurity related topics based on standards such as ISO, people's knowledge. So we assess their actual knowledge. That does mean that we don't ask, do you know what a strong password is, but which of these 3 passwords is the strongest one? Or how should you safely share confidential information with other people, for example. And then for each question, there's 1 right answer, they're given 2 wrong answers, and 1 I don't know option. After they answered the question for a topic, they receive immediate feedback on the right answer. So they read, for example, the right tool to share confidential information is application XYZ. And after this, we assess their behavior by asking them, do you actually use this tool? Do you actually create a strong password? And we score this on a 5-point Likert scale ranging from never to always. This allows us to see whether people know, do, or don't know, or don't know but don't do. And these results are very, very interesting, I think. Firstly, let me zoom in on an average of 15 topics. So when I analyze all the topics together and I look only at knowledge, we see the following results. We see that of those 15 topics, knowledge is present at 62%. So that means that only 38% of the people doesn't know. In terms of awareness, you could say that you're done. That people, for almost 2/3 of the people, are done. They know what's expected from them. But the main question, of course, is, does this knowledge also translate into behavior? And when we look at those numbers, we see different things. Let me show you this. To illustrate, I have a specific topic, in this case, locking your computer screen. And if we look again first at the knowledge, we see that 88% of the people knows when to lock their computer screen and how they should lock it. So in terms of awareness, you would say that you're almost done. 88%, I think it's a very nice result. So in terms of sending, well, it's even more interesting, I think, that because these numbers also show that if you would provide these people with an e-learning unlocking their computer screen, only 12% of those people do actually need this knowledge, and the other 88% already knows it. So you would annoy them by rehearsing knowledge that they already have. So let's have a look at behavior. We now saw that 88% knows. Let's see what people actually do. You see that 42% of the people who know it actually behave accordingly, but there's another 46% who do know that they should lock their computer screen and how, but don't do it. And this also shows very clearly that we should go beyond sending awareness to people only, because the sending awareness would be helpful in the 12% part of the pie. But the other 46% of the people need different interventions because they already have the knowledge, but we should make sure that they are going to translate this into actual behavior. And it's a kind of sad, because whereas in the past we thought, well, we are done because 88% knows, so we're done. We now see that we're only done for 42%. But I think the end goal should be safe behavior. And that means that we should also do something for the people who are in this 46% pie. Another example is strong passwords. If we ask people whether they know which password is the most strong, they say that we see that 18% does actually know what a strong password is. Again, if we ask them whether they use a strong password themselves, we see that only 31% actually uses a strong password, even though 82% knows it. So again, telling people to create strong passwords doesn't fix your problem, because it only helps those 18% of the people. But the other ones don't benefit from repeating this rule. They need something differently. For example, show them what happens and motivate them by showing what happens if they don't do this. Okay, let's now turn to the overall numbers. When I look at knowledge, I just showed that 38% doesn't know. And for the total of those topics, we see that 31% does know and show the behavior, but there's another 31% where knowledge is present, but behavior is absent. So this gives direction to how we should look at changing behavior, because we now see that knowing what is desired from you does not translate automatically into the desired behavior. And where we saw that in the past, awareness has been the end goal of our programs. We even call them awareness programs. I think the shift should be made in the field that we talk about behavioral programs, because we need to have safe behavior as the end goal. And there we are again at psychology, because psychology teaches us what behavior is composed of. According to one of the basic theories of psychology, we see that behavior is built by ability. Ability refers to the skills and the knowledge, of course, that people have about a given topic. And so this is not a claim against awareness or awareness campaigns. I absolutely believe in awareness as long as awareness is the problem. But what we see is that in many cases nowadays, awareness isn't the problem anymore. And then we should look further. And the second factor that composes behavior is motivation. Are people actually willing to perform the behavior? So I can know that a strong and complex long password is required, but when I think it's too much of a hassle, I won't do it. And repeating the rule again won't change my motivation. So we need something different there. The third factor that composes behavior is opportunity. This refers to whether people are actually enabled in the situation, in the context, to do what they are required to do. For example, do you have the right authorizations to work in your own accounts only? Because we can know the rule that we are not allowed to share passwords, and we can think it's very important and are motivated to behave accordingly. But once we don't have the right authorizations to have access to the applications that we need to have access to, will start sharing passwords and create workarounds. So these three components are crucial factors that determine behavior. And they are all having a kind of threshold value, so they need to be present to a certain extent, and otherwise behavior won't take place. What's even more interesting, I think, is that they also give you a very good idea of how to intervene, because once you know which of these factors is missing, you also know what intervention you should do. And that should be education. We have to teach people when they don't know, of course. But besides teaching, there's more to change behavior. There's also motivating and facilitating. So dependent on what is the lacking factor, we should intervene. So if we want to go to behavioral change, we have to assess what is currently withholding people to display the behavior that we require from them. Is it ability, motivation, or an opportunity? Because only when we know this, we can remove the right barriers. I brought one example that shows how this point of view can change. It can actually define the way how you create your interventions and how large the difference is to tailor these interventions to your organization, to your people. If we have the behavior of reporting incidents, we want everyone to report incidents. I came across one organization, and then I went to talk to people, because that's what we do as psychologists. We have interviews with people, and people told me, well, I don't know where to report them. I had no idea that it was expected from me, and I even don't know what is an incident officially. What should I report? Which shouldn't I? Where should I report? So in this case, for this organization, the barrier was ability, which means that the solution is also to teach, because these people didn't know where to report or what to report. So they should been provided with this knowledge. So here, a campaign about reporting incidents was the right intervention. However, we now turn to the same behavior, but a different barrier for another organization. This organization also wanted everyone to report incidents, but in the interviews, I learned from people that they said, well, I've done so several times in the past, but I never received any response. This means that people do have the knowledge, but are not motivated anymore because they think that reporting them has no use. In this case, the previous intervention would have made no sense, because repeating to those people which incidents should be reported and where would only annoy them because they already did so and they never hear something back. So this is where you have to be careful because it's even creating security fatigue, rehearsing things that don't make sense to people. What is the solution? In this case, what we did was we did several things, but we had to motivate people to start reporting again. So one of the things that we made is that we made sure that everyone who reported an incident received a personalized response stating, "Thank you very much for your report. We will dive into this. Keep on going. Thank you very much." And not a standardized thing, but just take this 1-2 minutes that it takes you to write a personalized response. In addition, they receive feedback after something has been done with the incident. And we also made sure that once every month, everyone in the organization received an email which made clear which incident had been reported in the past month, and how happy they were with those reports, what they had been preventing because they now knew what happened, and how they want people to continue with reporting incidents. The last organization also had the same goal of we want people to report incidents, but there people said, well, I know what's expected from me, and I also know that they're really acting upon reports. However, always when I try to make this ticket, I don't know where to find the right page or the button to report the incidents. It's somewhere hidden in our intranet and I just cannot find it, and I just stop or don't even try it anymore. For this company, we developed an application on their phones and also a shortcut on their desktops, which made it very easy for them to overcome this barrier. So, but what I think is very clear from this example is that there's no one silver bullet, there's no one size fits all, but you always have to look which of the behavioral factors is missing. And that's the button you have to turn. And that's more than only awareness. And by only putting all your efforts into awareness campaigns, you're having a guess like 1/3 that you're doing the right things. But there's 2/3 about motivation and facilitation that you just don't pay attention to. So to wrap up, what I would like to tell you, to take home is there's a gap, obviously, between awareness on the one side and behavior on the other side. And we should focus on safe behavior as the end goal of our programs and get rid of the awareness campaigns only. Because behavior consists of multiple factors, more than awareness, also ability, also motivation and opportunity. So we have to assess what is currently withholding people, because only then we can remove the specific barrier.